whispered, "Chief, someone is watching." He frowned. "Watching? Who?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But it feels dangerous." Chief pulled her close, ignoring the chill creeping down her spine. "Then we face it together," he said. But Basira knew it wasn't that simple. Danger had found its way into her life, and no matter how much she loved Chief, no secret stays buried forever. The following morning, Basira arrived at her buka earlier than usual, her heart heavy with unease. Word had travelled fast. Madame Adiwale had been seen in the city, asking questions about the mysterious food seller who had captured her husband's attention. She set up her pots quickly, trying to ignore the unease curling in her stomach. The streets buzzed as usual, but she could feel the tension, like the city itself was holding its breath. Then the black Prado jeep rolled down the street, stopping directly in front of her buka. Madame Adiwale stepped out, her heels clicking sharply against the dusty ground. The crowd fell silent. No one dared move. Basira, Madame Adiwale said, her tone sharp and cutting like a whip. "We need to talk." Basira wiped her hands on her wrapper, meeting her gaze evenly. "And what exactly do you want to talk about, madam?" "Don't play games with me," Madame Adiwale said, her eyes narrowing. "I know you're trying to steal my husband. I know he comes here every day. And I know there's something strange about your food." Gasps rose from the onlookers. Basira's heart pounded, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Strange. My food is delicious. That is all." Madame Adiwale stepped closer, pointing her finger. "I don't care how delicious it is. I will not allow you to ruin my family. Mark my words, Basira, I will find out everything. And when I do, you will regret it." The tension was unbearable. The customers whispered nervously, some backing away. Basira's mind raced. She couldn't afford a mistake. Not now, not with Chief's heart wrapped up in her hands, and her secret ingredient lying quietly in her kitchen, waiting to protect her. Madame Adiwale turned and left, her heels echoing like gunshots. But before she got into her car, she threw a cold glance over her shoulder. "This isn't over," she said. Basira exhaled slowly, trying to steady her trembling hands. Danger had arrived at her doorstep, but she was ready. She had survived worse, and if anyone thought they could stop her, they were about to learn the hard way. That night, as the city slept, Basira lit a small fire behind the buka. The dark ritual she had performed before, the one that protected her secret, would now be stronger than ever. She whispered under her breath, "No one will take what's mine." The city was unusually quiet that afternoon, as if it knew something dangerous was about to unfold. Basira worked quickly, her hands moving with precision as she prepared her food. Every pot, every bowl, every spice was placed just so. She knew Madame Adiwale would be back, and this time she would come with more than threats. By mid-afternoon, the familiar black Prado jeep rolled up again. Madame Adiwale stepped out, flanked by two stern-looking men who carried folders and notebooks. Her eyes were cold, calculating. "Basira," she said sharply, "open your kitchen. I want to see what goes into your food." Basira's smile was slow and deliberate. "Madame Adiwale," she said, her voice calm but edged with steel, "my kitchen is my sacred place. You cannot just enter because you are curious." Madame Adiwale's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Curious? No, I am here to protect my husband and my family. If you value your life, you will cooperate." The crowd of onlookers held their breath. They had seen arguments before, but nothing like this. The tension was palpable. Basira stepped forward, placing her hand on a pot simmering with her secret stew. "You want to see what makes my food irresistible?" she said softly. "Be careful, madam. Curiosity has its price." Madame Adiwale hesitated, her eyes flicking to the pot. But determination hardened her face. "I will not be intimidated," she said. "I will find out the truth." Basira's lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. She reached under the counter and retrieved her small calabash, the one that held the dark secret ingredient, her hidden protection, her power. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," she whispered, almost to herself. Madame Adiwale stepped closer, and in that moment, the air crackled with tension. It was not just about food, love, or betrayal anymore. This was a clash of power, of darkness and obsession, of desire and danger. Behind the busy street and the curious eyes, only one thing was certain. After today, nothing would ever be the same for Aya Basira, for Chief Adiwale, or for Madame Adiwale. Night had fallen, and the city streets were quiet, but Aya Basira's buka was alive with the smell of spices, pepper, and simmering stew. The flickering oil lamp cast long shadows on the walls, making the small room feel both warm and dangerous. She worked swiftly, her hands steady as she prepared a special dish for Chief Adiwale. Tonight was more than a meal, it was a statement. A declaration that her world, her secret, and her heart were not for anyone else to touch. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Madame Adiwale stepped in, her presence as sharp and cold as ever. Behind her, a few of her aides lingered, pretending to examine the pots and utensils. Aya Basira, Madame Adiwale said, her voice slicing through the air. This ends tonight. I will discover what you're hiding, or I will make sure you regret crossing me. Aya Basira's lips curled into a slow smile. Madam, you still don't understand, she said softly. Some secrets are better left unknown. Madame Adiwale moved closer, reaching toward one of the steaming pots. Aya Basira's hand flew to her hidden calabash. A tense silence fell over the room, broken only by the bubbling of the stew. At that moment, Chief Adiwale entered, his tall frame blocking the doorway. Enough, he barked, his voice echoing off the walls. Leave her alone. Madame Adiwale's eyes widened with fury, but Chief didn't back down. He stepped closer to Aya Basira, taking her hand in his. She is the only one I want. And no one, he said, his gaze deadly serious, will hurt her or her business. For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. Madame Adiwale's anger collided with Chief's authority, while Aya Basira's secret hovered like a shadow, unseen but powerful. Finally, Madame Adiwale turned sharply, storming out, her aides following in silence. The door slammed behind them, leaving only the warm glow of the kitchen and the smell of Basira's stew. Chief turned to her, his eyes softening. Basira, he said gently. Tonight you showed me more than your cooking. You showed me your strength. I want to be with you. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized it was true. For the first time, Aya Basira felt both safe and alive, loved for who she was, not just for her food. She smiled through her tears, leaning into him. Then stay, she whispered. Stay, and taste what the world fears. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the dangerous, dark, and passionate love story that had just solidified in a small, smoky buka. And inside, Aya Basira knew one thing for sure. Her secret would remain hers, and her power was stronger than anyone could imagine.